Official newsletter OFTHE FIGU Canada National Group /FLCA #43/November 2025.
We call ourselves Civilised? Translation: DeepL. Translation: DeepL/translation. Corrections. Intro. Summary notes by Catherine Mossman. Tiny. ON. November 17th, 2025.
What actually determines a civilized society? In the West, we define it in material terms, i.e., by the degree to which we obtain and secure material riches, avail ourselves of technologies, live in somewhat stable societies where most people are civil, i.e., polite, helpful, and get along okay. But if these stable societies start to collapse, we soon see more basic survival instincts kick in, and, generally, it's everyone for themselves, with any pretense of so-called civil behaviour quickly deteriorating. There are always exceptions, and there are those who can bring people together in difficult times. Perhaps these are some of the more civilized ones, even though they could be living in poverty and utter desolation. In that case, perhaps we can define being civilized more in terms of non-material values. Let's see what Billy and Tar discuss in the excerpt below. In this conversation contact report 592 that Billy had with Patar on the 7th of July 2012, they examine this subject and provide us with interesting insights. How we think of civilization has nothing to do with the true meaning of civilization.
The question must also be raised as to what civilization actually means, because what is called civilization today among Earth humans, states and peoples has nothing to do with civilization, because the Earth humans understand by it only the totality of the social and material living conditions created and improved by technical and scientific progress, but not what this term really means.
The Plejaran understanding of civilization, equality, health, consciousness development, security of existence.
A real civilization means a human society in which, beyond all barbarity and primitiveness, all social and material living conditions are created for the human beings in the same manner and equally given to all, as well as a healthy and valuable development of consciousness and a comprehensive security of existence and life.
Universal peace, self-responsibility, freedom.
This also includes a universally valid and comprehensive neutral peace and the explicitly established self-responsible, healthy freedom of the individual human beings and of each people who cultivate civilization, whereby these values are also cultivated towards other peoples outside of civilization.
Universal peace, self-responsibility, freedom.
This also includes a universally valid and comprehensive neutral peace and the explicitly established self-responsible, healthy freedom of the individual human beings and of each people who cultivate civilization, whereby these values are also cultivated towards other peoples outside of civilization.
Technology progress determined by the people.
The whole is created and made possible by all conceivable technical knowledge and science-based progress, also by the economy and by a policy which emanates solely from the people and is determined by them.
Healthy and positive living conditions.
Therefore, a real civilization of a people must also be characterized by positive and progressive living conditions, as well as by a distinctive administrative structure and by a high level of consciousness-based knowledge development and a high level of technical, mechanical, and medical development, which also includes a certain material prosperity, as well as high cultural developments.
flora, fauna, all other life forms, respected, and no terroristic practices of any sort.
Civilization also means that all human lives and all other life forms, nature and all that exists in it are generally and comprehensively respected and protected, and that consequently, no acts of terrorism, torture, and the death penalty are practiced, and no acts of war are carried out.
No hierarchies and equal rights.
There is a generally valid and people-determining formation of states, which has no hierarchical social structures whatsoever, while also cultivating a high degree of urbanization and a very extensive specialization and division of labor, as well as the equality and equal rights of men and women.
Urbanization means within limits that allow ample room for other species, as well as opportunity to develop in consciousness and observe laws of creation.
Urbanization, note by Billy, Latin, urbs equals city, is to be understood, for example, as a reasonable urbanization, but also as a reasonable expansion of the human beings and other life forms, in whose sphere of life the human being intervenes. So, on the one hand, urbanization can express itself in the reasonable growth of cities. On the other hand, it can be of particular value through positively changed behavior of the human beings in general, especially with regard to a healthy and valuable development of consciousness and the implementation of the creational natural laws and recommendations.
Civic, cultural, and training in creationally correct behavior in our dealings.
Civilization also includes all conceivable civic virtues, as well as already mentioned, valuable cultural achievements and the important training of creational, natural, correct behavior for the human beings, as well as the forms of dealing with all life forms.
Our civilization is a great evil and only illusory.
What is called civilization on Earth today is of great evil and has nothing to do with the civilized existence of Earth humans and their peoples. All in all countries and among all so-called civilized peoples, there is only an illusory civilization which brings only misery and affliction, hatred, disadvantages, revenge and retribution, madness and damage, as well as death, mourning and destruction to Earth humans worldwide.
If war and strife comes to an alleged peaceful society, we very quickly deteriorate to barbaristic actions.
And if so-called peaceful civilizations, states and peoples of the earth are also confronted with war and terror of any kind, then the human beings of these sham civilizations, which they truly are no different from those states and peoples who are constantly involved in uprisings, revolutions, terrorist activities, and acts of war. If the sham civilizations, especially those that call themselves industrialized nations, are also involved in such conflicts, then the Earth humans who are involved act in the same scapegoated to get very badly out of the control of the good human nature, brutal, murderous, and primitive and hateful form as the Earth humans of the other sham civilizations, and consequently, no difference is apparent, as the last 3 world wars, of which only 2 are ever mentioned, as well as the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and currently in Israel and Palestine, also prove, as do the constant political and religious struggles and unrest in Libya, Egypt, and many other sham civilized countries.
All pretenses of civilized behavior quickly deteriorates in times of crisis.
And it is also a fact that the world of thoughts and feelings of Earth humans falls more and more into Usatanden, getting badly out of control of the fundamental good human nature, forms, and consequently the associated behavior becomes more and more miserable and so crass that very often the human emotions have no chance to make themselves felt.
Us versus them mentality.
Exactly. That is also my opinion. Besides what you have said, there are also those so-called civilized earthlings who immediately take sides with one group or another, or with a people, and who express their miserable attitude with outbursts of hate, brawls, insults, and threats. This, while they cheer the others whose side they take, as do-gooders, although they are not better, but equally ausgeartet, out of control of their good human natures, malicious, brutal, inhumane, felonious, and misanthropic, as those who are condemned with hatred, and, so to speak, bluntly pummeled into the ground. So-called civilized states, harboring criminal organizations, exacting death and terror within and abroad. There are also those states whose populations believe they are civilized. Just think of the warmongers, mercenary troops, and criminal organizations such as the Mafia, the racist Aryan Brotherhood and the Ku Klux Klan in the USA, whose murderous activities cause many deaths every year. This is also the case with criminal organizations in Mexico, Brazil, China, Italy, Russia, and Japan, as well as elsewhere where criminal groups and criminal syndicates, etc. exist.
Key points. We currently do not understand the true meaning of what it is to be civil or civilized. Because of that, the world suffers misery, destruction, and all evils stemming from our lack of understanding. We do not understand the power of our thoughts and how our badly out of control thoughts translate to our badly out of control behavior. Our civilization encourages the development of an us versus them mentality, and either does not understand or intentionally obfuscates the fact that we are all humans and that we are all connected. A true civilization lives in balance in all understandings of that term, whereby every human can develop their consciousness in a secure setting, with no hierarchies and no diktats. True civilizations are collectively directed towards and immersed in an environment that exemplifies the observance and application of the creational nature-based teaching and the concomitant correct forms of behavior. A true civilization consists of citizens who fully understand and practice self-responsibility, as well as extended graciousness and respect to those who live in other civilizations. A true civilization encompasses a high level of technology in all aspects of society. It goes without say that all acts of violence, terrorism, war, and barbarity and killing are prohibited. That applies as well to the flora, fauna, and environment. In our current, modern era on this planet we call home, the so-called civilized state powers perpetrate terror, killing of innocents under false pretenses, false flags, false ideas, and false propaganda, wherein the ideals of democracy, equality, human rights, love, and peace are hypocritically impugned. And thus, we, the citizens of these civilizations, go about our lives while bearing constant and hopeless witness to the raging forth of crass and savage killing and destruction. Killing and destruction done with impunity and no repercussions. And the citizens themselves, unwittingly and due to out-of-control thinking, religious creeds, and plain old ignorance, contribute to this terror and destruction. From that, the growing dearth of resources, brought on by the ceaseless reproduction of our species, increasingly tortures and harasses every corner of our planet. In addition to the zero self-respect we have for our own species' well-being, that of the flora and fauna is thoughtlessly and carelessly exterminated and threatened everywhere we grow our habitats and rape the earth for resources. We should be living in harmony rather than annihilating. The unbreakable law of cause and effect. As we bring more and more humans to the planet, the more we all have to suffer steadily deteriorating standards of living, and increasing climatic attacks on our habitats, and the habitats of all the other species we allegedly share the planet with. All this disaster leads to resource wars, massive movement of populations to higher grounds and greener pastures, etc. The thing is, all those pastures, higher grounds, and safe places are going down, as well as we all pile onto a shrinking and disappearing area that is still habitable, consumable, and has enough room to serve our insatiable voraciousness. And so, any veneer of civility slips away further and further as we pillage and plunder our way through our truly uncivilized lives. Until we truly recognize what it means to be a true human, a truly civilized human, that is, the horrors will continue. We need to take heed of what the Playaran and Billy talk about. Most of those reading this are the fortunate ones who have evolved enough to be at a level of cognizance whereby we are able to recognize the value of the creation energy teaching, of which Billy Meyer and the Playaran ceaselessly discuss. We are the ones who must endeavor to do our part, to slowly turn around the titanic onslaughts of these horrific times by embracing the tenets of what being truly civilized entails, and do our best to teach and share this information with the vast majority who still live in darkness.